welcome to On the Real Side, our podcast. And today, my guest is a wonderful drummer and old friend and a very special friend to Chet Baker and sort of a Boswell to Chet. He wrote two books about his relationship with Chet and showing a side of Chet that we'll talk about because Chet has been maligned, especially in print. And those of us that knew him well saw a different side of Chet.
Absolutely.
That wasn't often shown the world, so Artt has some insights into that. So we welcome you to Artt Frank. We already said hello and how we met in 1973, I think it was, 1973 at a club called St. James Infirmary, which the great pianist Otto O'Brien ran and owned for, the club only lasted about a year and a half.
Yeah.
But it was a wonderful club and a lot of beautiful music was played there. And, we were all fortunate. And at that time, Chet Baker was my friend and employer. And Artt came to play with us. Artt came down he had been living in Maine. And you and Chet had been friends for a very long time.
Yeah.
And Artt came down and played a few months with us. And we had a great time.
Yes, we did.
And, how you and Chet, you guys went back a long way.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was just listening to a live performance of Chet Baker when he first made his appearance in Boston at, George Weah's Storyville. That was 1954, December 1954. I drove down from Maine to see him, and I've got a CD of the actual performance, and I'm in the audience. So I went in the club, and he was just getting through. He was Bob Neal was on drums, Chet, Russ Freeman, and Chet. Anyway, I said, "Hey, Chet, Artt Frank, remember me?" He said, "No, sorry, man." So he knew I felt bad. So he was going out with Russ Freeman to have a fun.
Where did you meet him before?
Huh?
In other words, you said, did he remember you? But you didn't tell me where you met him originally.
Yeah, I was going to say that. So we go outside. He called me outside. He says, "Well, we were supposed to have met, Artt." I said, "Yes, I didn't meet you. I heard you when I was coming back from Korea, the Korean War in 1953 over the radio. And I said, I heard you doing Isn't It Romantic? And not Buckingham. Oh, it was a ballad, Bob. Anyway, I said a prayer to the Lord right there. I said, "Oh, Lord, let me be able to meet this man and become his friend." Now, what's the chances of that, Bob? All right. Mm-hmm. So I'm back in Maine, and he says, he's coming to George Weah's Storyville. I said, I got to get down and meet him. So I get down, I walk in, I say, "Hey, Chet, Artt Frank, remember me?" He says, No, I haven't, man." So I put my head down. He's going out. He looked at me, he says, he waved to me. He says, I said, "You mean me?" He says, "Yeah, come on." So we go outside. I said, "Where were we supposed to meet?" I said, "I didn't meet you, man. I loved your music. I just wanted to meet you, shake your hand. It was such a pleasure because he was so young, so good looking, so soft voice, so honest. As you know, painfully honest." So anyway, he said, "Well, I'm playing in Birdland a couple of weeks. Why don't you come on down and let you say a couple of tunes?" I said, "Oh, man." Long story short, I was working at the SD1 paper mill on what you call shift. I couldn't get the guy to take my shift. So I didn't want to lose my job. So I was unable to get down there at that particular time. It was almost 10, 11 years when I'd see him again, Bob.
So you missed that chance.
Huh?
What was your job in Maine? What were you doing there?
I was a cutter press man. You have big paper comes off the machine. They have to cut it in certain dimensions. I would have to load the paper about 6 feet high, 20 feet long, 10 feet long, and put it to a cutter press. We had 6 cutter presses. I had to feel each one. So anyway, a long story short, I was playing with Richard Groove Holmes, a jazz organist
Yeah.
in L.A. at the Mr. Adams Club, and Roy Ayers had come in, Phil Moore, the third, all the guys. What the tenor player from Jefferson? Eddie, is it Jefferson? Tenor player.
Well, Eddie was a singer.
Well, I knew this guy was anyway. I can't think of his name. Anyway, we go up to Shelley's Manhole, and then one day I'm going down to see Herb Ellis at Ellis Island in North Hollywood. You know, he's a trumpet player. So as I'm going by Lancaster Boulevard, huh?
Herb Ellis, the guitar player. Herb Alpert.
No, yeah, that was outdoor trumpet player. So anyway, dig this. I'm just passing Universal Studios. And I had to look to my left and it said Chet Baker Quartet. So I almost hit a hydrant. I ran across the street. I only had $1.50 on me. So I'm standing outside and I'm hearing him singing and not really playing. I said, what does it cost to go in? He said, no charge, man. So I went in and he's on the stage. The stage is lighted, you know. I'm in the audience and I'm waiting for like this. Hey, Chet. He kept looking up, but he didn't recognize me. So as he's walking out, I said, hey, Chet, remember me? He said, no. I said, remember Copper Square at the, yeah, he said, are you that cat? I said, yeah. So he got talking. I said, what are you doing tomorrow night? You coming back here? He said, no, the cat just hired me for one night, trying to put bread on the table for my wife and kids. I said, I'm married 3 kids too. Why don't you come up to my house tomorrow night in Culver City? He said, well, I gave him a card. I was painting houses then too, you know. So I said, he'll never come over. So I had promised my then wife Earla that one day I would have Chet Baker playing in our living room. Now, what's the chance that a young guy from Maine, really got a Chet Baker, having come to play in my living room? That's about 1,000,000 to 1. Anyway, he called the next day, he said, I'll be over. He comes over, his beautiful wife, Carol. We sit down. I said, did you bring your horn with you? He said, yeah. He brought the flugelhorn, wrapped in a paper and a blue towel. And he started to play. That was a dream answered and a prayer come true. He did it. From there, Bob, we became very fast friends. I'd take him on drug runs, man, you know?
Well, yes. I mean, that was part of the dues that his friends.
Yeah, that's right.
Made, you know, but I would say though that the upside of that, you know, I mean, there could be a lot of negativity attached to those stories, you know, like, I mean, I went on those little things with him too, waiting for him to come out. And then once he got it, going to the bathroom, making sure he hadn't killed himself with, you know, any overdose or anything. But he was extremely loyal though to those friends. He wasn't sort of just, some people say, well, he just used people, you know, like in other words, you could take him on the drum runs and he borrowed money. I mean, there was no friend of his that he didn't hit up for money at some point or another, because that was part of it. And he tried to pay it back as often as he could. I mean, he used to borrow hundreds and pay back 50s, which was how he would do it with me, you know, and we'd just get back from Europe. And he knew, I mean, I couldn't tell him I didn't have any money left because we just got back 2 days ago. And I knew I came back with a few grand. So I couldn't spend that in a day. He could, but I couldn't. But anyway, you know, so he'd say, man, I need $100 and I got to get straight. And I'd say, here. So that would be, and then, you know, even when I was not with the band, I'd see him and he'd give me $50 toward whatever, the few hundred that he owed me. He said, oh, here's $50 toward it. So he did have to pay you back. But I mean, the thing that was very nice about Chet that I think a lot of people didn't see in the light of like some of the documentaries that have been done about him and books written is that, yeah, he did use people, but that wasn't entirely it. He had friends he was very loyal to.
Right.
And part of paying the dues for being his friend was taking him out to the store sometimes and doing that. But nevertheless, he was your brother, man. He wouldn't let anybody say anything bad about you. He was
always right. That's right.
You know,
I got to tell you a story. He had no trumpet in L.A. and we got him a trumpet, And then he hawked it, of course, Anyway, somehow he got a flugelhorn. I don't know how or where, but anyway, I drove him into Watts, Watts area in LA, very, very dangerous place, to a barber shop. And in the barber shop, the paint was coming off the walls. The guy in the barber said, cutting hair, but no hair is in the floor. And a big guy looking at the window, looking this way, looking that. He said, what do you have this guy look for? He said, look at the cops. So he said, Chet, come in the back room. I got some records I want you to hear. He said, check it out, live as a fish. I said, what the fuck you do to the guy? He said, hey, I just gave him some soup. He said, he'll be all right in a few minutes. So I get him in the back of the car. He starts laying on it in a fetal position, right? So I'm saying, shit, what's the cop pull me over? He said, so anyway, I said, hey, Chet, there's a cop right behind it. That's easy. He jumped right out. Anyway, we pulled over to Safeway. And, so you get, Bob, as he could dry off, become a little more awake. And then he said, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. He said, I want to play. I'm going to play again. I'm going to play again. Now, Carol, we went to his house in Redondo Park. And Roger was up. He lived on a place called Freckles Lane, yeah.
But 1 second, Art, play again. This is the period right after his teeth had been knocked out.
Yeah, this is 1967.
Yeah, see, everybody doesn't know that story where, Chet, whatever the circumstances, some revenge was taken upon him by a dope dealer in San Francisco.
That's right, Sausalito.
To have his...
Sausalito, yeah.
And he lost some teeth. And, so
that's right there, right after that, Bob. I was there right after that. He came out of the club in the Segway, and 5 guys attacked him, kicked the living hell out of him. And it's ironic because no one would help him, right? So the black guy came by and he saw him, he pulled over. There's a big dude, and he come down, and the other guys ran away because he thought he was a cop. So he took him all the way back to the hospital. And the guy, he saw a neurologist and a medical man. And they said, you'll never be able to play like you had before. You better look for another kind of employment. He said, you'll never play that way again. And after I come in about 2 or 3 months after that, that's when I ran to Chet because he's trying to make money, Anyway, I bought back his flugelhorn for him. And I said, Chet, you're not going to let me down this way, man. I'll buy this back with the provision that you would practice. Chet never liked to practice. But anyway, every day, Bob, for about 1.5 years, I get down and he was playing, could not play a whole 5 or 10 bars. He tried terminal nerve anyway. And I checked it out and it was true. I know he told others, but I know his all 4 upper front teeth were gone and these were gone. He couldn't really get any force out of him. So we bought a little pair of plastic ones at a store. He put them in just to be able to blow. And he blew a little bit. But he went back and he started taking this methadone. And I just helped him, Bob. I get on and buy him food. I got this, listen to this. We're coming back one afternoon, and there was a little variety store. He said, Art, could you stop here? Yeah, sure. So I stopped, and listen to what he said, Bob. He said, you got a dime, Art? I said, what? He said, yeah, Carol's making a stew, and she wants to bring up some carrots. I said, a dime? He said. So I had a few bucks on me, so I go to the store with him. And he picked up some stew anyway. I said, Chet, get what you want. Get what you want. I'll take it.
By the way, this is when a dime was actually worth something. We're talking 10 cents, not $10.
Right.
Because now you talk about a dime, you think a dime bag.
Yeah, right.
A dime was 10 cents. Okay, just to clear that up.
That's right. I love that. So anyway, I drive him. He's standing in line, checkout counter. I put a $20 bill in his pocket. I said, Chet, it's a sob it, devil sob it. So he gets out, I keep the change. I get him home. Kel walks in. His home was so, what do you call, sparse, dispersed. He had one studio couch on the right-hand side, nothing in between to the kitchen. Off the kitchen, he had a bathroom, and inside had a linen closet. Well, that's where he started to practice. He blow into the linen closet, so ain't no one to hear him, and he developed that sound. And one day he was at my house in Culver City, and he was playing, and all of a sudden he stopped. He said, I've got it, man. I said, what? He said, sound, it's going on in my brain. That's when you blow the air first, and the tone would come out after, like that whisper, like a flute, like so whispery. He was so elated over that. So I got him a job. I went up and told him when I got him a job at the Melody Room on the Sunset Strip, and right across from the Whiskey Go-Go. So anyway, the guy, Bob, didn't know nothing about jazz. He was a Grecian man. So that place was packed full on that opening night. And I felt so good for him, Bob, for what he was going through. People didn't give a damn about him. They didn't give a damn about him. Went to Shelly Manson. I said, Shelly, Chet's doing pretty good. Now you think you give him a couple of weeks. No, I don't dare to. I can't take a chance on him. Because I know he can play. I know that I can't take a chance on him. I was so pissed off.
Shelly Man. He said Shelly Man couldn't.
Yeah, Shelly. Shelly Man.
Manhole,
He
right?
turned it down. Chet was the guy who hired him when he was doing nothing.
Huh.
Vera told me. She said she was so sore at that because she
Vera
said,
is Chet's mother, by the way.
I know Vera. I know her very well.
Well, I'm just telling people, we're going to talk about that too, but I'm just telling people who don't know who Vera was.
Okay, yeah. She's Chet's mother.
Right.
And anyway, she was so angry against Shelly because she said, I can remember when Chet was starting to make records, he asked Shelly Man come and have to get a gig with him. He said, when he was playing, he said, he come down and he asked me, Mrs. Baker, do I sound all right? Do you think Chet would like me? And then Shelly became a star, And I knew Shelly, and I didn't
very well in the studios and even had a horse farm, I was told.
Yeah, his wife Phil, yeah. But and I knew all about that, but when it came to music, I wanted to help Chet, and that's all it was to it.
Oh, you played with him.
Who?
You played with Chet. Too.
Yeah, I go Bob knows that.
Well, you got to tell the
people. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. When we did the opening night at the Melody Room, I said, I want you to play with me. I said, yeah, I haven't played in a couple of months. He said, no, I love the way you play pressures. So I want you to come in. So he hired me. He could have had any other drummer in all of it. He hired me, and we had in the group we had Frank Della Rosa on bass, and Frank Rosario on piano, Chet and me. And that was a fantastic thing. So Leonard Feather and his wife came in one night, and sitting right behind me, I had my tape recorder on the bar, was a horseshoe bar, and I put it there. And he came in that night with his wife, and he said, "Hey, Art," he says, "you should get Chet asked to play my wife's favorite tune." I said, "What is it?" "If You Could See Me Now" by Dameron. I said, "I don't know. I don't think he likes it, man, but I'll ask him anyway." Chet said, "No, I'm not going to play it." I said, "Chet, man, it could be a nice write-up for me in the LA Times, you and I in the time." So he played it. Bob, I still got a copy of it. I get original stuff. It's fantastic. I tried to release it, but Paul Baker would not let it go. I mean, that's it.
Well, Chet actually loved that song. I played it a lot with Chet. Chet loved that song.
Oh, I know it. I know you did.
And he played it in D flat. And he had gotten to know Tad Dameron quite well.
I know he died in his arms.
What's that?
Chet said Tad died in his arms. He had Billie Holiday's old room in New York, and Chet had no place to go, so Tad bring him in. He stayed with Tad for a while, and he said Tad was so bad, a little later on, he died in his arms right there. and it was in Billie Holiday's old apartment house. It's a lot of stories that too short to go into, but
Well, Chet told me
the
funny
thing I
thing
was
about
telling you,
Tad. He said Tad was the band
Huh?
director. Tad was the music director of the band at Lexington,
that's right.
at the hospital, you know, which they used to have that system where
That's right.
you go to Lexington if they
Yeah, they
arrested
were
you
both
right
there.
before jail, you go there. And Chet said that band was so good that people
Yeah,
would get busted so they could go there and then kick the habit
that's right.
and
That's
get
right.
high again when they got
That's
out.
right.
But, you know, they just wanted to be around
Yeah.
Tad Dameron. And
Yeah, Chet said the same thing, man.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, that's why I always like that. If you could see me now, because whenever he'd play it, and maybe it would the same way with you, of course, he'd always like play it right down to the ground, you know, and just roll the trumpet down. And that's the thing, Bob. Listen, I work with a lot of trumpet players. I worked with a lot of cats who were not that big in the day, but became big. I studied with Charlie Parker when I was 16 years old. All right, at the Royal Roost, and the Royal Roost was a chicken restaurant up on Broadway someplace. And you walk in, and if you were not 18 years old, in the same way it was in Birdland, they put you in a what do you call it? Bench where you go.
Peanut Gallery. The Peanut
Yeah,
Gallery.
that's it. Yeah. So anyway, he stayed there, and then Charlie Parker was walking by, and I said, "Mr. Parker, Mr. Parker." Who's calling Mr. Parker? You know, so I said, right over. He said, "Yeah, how can I help you, kid?" And this, I said, "I like to play a couple of tunes." He said, "What do you play?" I said, "Drums, I think." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I don't own a set." But I said, I was in the Crusaders drum corps. So I think Miles was there. I'm not sure. But Max said, "Let the kid sit in." So I said, "Bob, I wasn't a great drummer, but at least I kept time. And I knew where to place things, you know, so not to get in the way of the guy soloing." And that's the one thing when I was playing with you that time, I got a confession to tell you. I always thought you sound closer to Bird of anyone I've ever heard in my life. And I mean that because you play like Chet did, straight from the heart and right from the flow. You know, like me, I never took a lesson. Still can't read. I don't know diddle from middle, but
Me
I can
either,
play.
really.
I know, but you see, you are a living monster. I mean, because you're the best I have ever heard. And I always said it to you, right? And I'm saying it now publicly. You're the best. Huh?
Big flattery. Thank you. Well,
No, I just
I
want
was
to.
in good
I don't want to
company.
get next to you, Bob.
Well, I was in good company, you know, and he played
That's
with,
right.
you know, there's a famous story of Chet when, you know, he
Only
auditioned
one.
for Bird and Bird picked him without even hearing him. And it was funny because years later when I played with Art Farmer,
Yeah.
I was talking to Art about having played with Chet. And he said, you know, I mean, Chet's a nice cat and everything, but I've resented him for years. I said, really? I said, you know, I think you guys share so many conceptions about music. You know, you have, you know, different approaches, but you're so similar in what you like. He said, well, I resented him because he said Bird chose Chet to be in his band when he came to California. And and Bird was staying with me and my brother Addison.
Yeah.
He said Bird was living with him and Art Farmer and his brother, and he still chose Chet.
Here's the
So
underneath of that. Phil Ursel. You know Phil Ursel, a great
I
tenor
played with
player.
Chet for years.
Yeah, I played with him.
Never heard him play a bad note.
No, that's right. That's right. So he told me he was there. All right. What am I going on?
You were talking about the audition.
The audition, yes. He said, I was there. And he said, when he got up and played, he sat right next to Bird. Sat right next to Bird and played. And I got photos, might show you one day. It said Charlie Parker chose him immediately after all the other ones because he played exactly what Bird had played just before. Now think of that. Whatever Bird played for, Chet played like a record. I heard that from Phil.
Playing like what? Like what was that, Art? I'm sorry.
Like you're going, like Chet was playing like on Bird. Chet did the same thing, almost note for note for Bird had played just before. And after Phil Rosso said, he says, it was uncanny. Chet heard it like a tape recorder. He played the same damn thing. And Bird could not believe that. You know, he told me a lot of things on Bird, you probably told you too, but how we take Bird riding, you know, driving around the West Coast. And
Right.
one thing.
Going to the movies, right?
Yeah.
Carry the hill, he said sometimes.
He said one thing Bird liked to do, and Chet was the same way. And it's, you know, Bob, I believe that I was drawn to Chet by God. Because if I hadn't shown up, Chet would not have lived. It's that simple. He had nothing. He had no money, no job. The only thing he had was a job at the gas station. He worked 18 hours a day sometimes. Okay. But anyway, what Chet liked to do was to look out in the ocean. We'd send him on a meet on the lift. We'd stay there for hours, and Chet would relate to me what is going on. That's how I learned all about this books I have. I memorized, and I have an ironclad, you know, memory, and I love the guy so much, Bob, that I had to put him in print. You know,
So,
and that's what I say. I want to say this once and for all, that I've always admired your playing, and it's always been a pleasure to play with you, because I know when I sat down behind you, everything's going to be cool up front. Now, conversely, I play with a lot of other players who think they're just good. They don't know too much about time. I'm sorry, just you're the best alto player I've ever played with, man.
well, other than Bird.
You know that.
I don't mind. He said, well, thank you. And so, you know, you have played with some good ones. I think did you get to play with Stroger when you were out?
Yeah, the alto player, Frank.
Yeah, Stroger.
Yeah, Frank. Yeah, he couldn't take it. He became a pianist. He's like, you won't work that way. Frank was a monster, man, but he wasn't. But listen, he didn't have the New York deep feeling, you know. He didn't have that. What that thing, honey? You know, yeah. He did not have that urgency in the horn. So you got the urgency. That's a difference. No, seriously, think about it.
No, thank you. He was urgent for
A lot of people play up here, Bob. A lot of people play up here, not here.
Yeah, well,
All head play, like Chet Cullen. They're Chet Cullen assembly line players.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, I think that one thing that Chet did that we shared was having sung early, you know, in life, you know, before even playing. You know, I started playing because my voice changed when I was 12. I was
knew that.
Billie Holiday, Sinatra, you know, June.
I know that.
Those things. And then when my voice changed, I started to play the saxophone.
Yeah.
The voice. And so Chet had that kind of, I think what we shared musically was this love of songs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I've mentioned that before, that Dave Frischberg told me once that he felt that there were two kinds of musicians. On one level, he said, there are cats that got into it to play an instrument, and then there are others who got into it to play songs.
Right.
And the instrument is the vehicle to play the songs.
Yeah, that's right.
Play the songs. And so I think Chet and I both were tunesmiths, and we shared, you know, when we drove from New York to California, we drove across country with Ruth and Jacques Pelzer.
Yeah, Jack. Oh, buddy.
You know, we all drove across, and Chet and I must have sung. I think between Chet and Ruth and I, we must have sung 200 tunes in the cross-country trip. You know, plus we listened to some tapes and everything, but a lot of the time it was just, hey, remember this one? This Heart of Mine was doing very well. Oh, yeah, I remember that. And so he was a lot of fun to discuss songs. You know what,
Bob? You and Chet were always lyrical romantics. You had a lot of penchant for lyricism. That always come out. When you first came out to Tucson, and I get to the gig down here at the Old Pueblo Grill, I stood at the bar area. I wanted to see if and here's you took your horn and you curdle against your body like it was like a little child. And you started to play that. See, I said, Bob's a lyrical romantic, just like Chet. That's it. That's the thing you both had that stood out, is that lyrical pleasure. It was just, what would you say about the Chet's thing?
Just love.
How about
love music.
we were taking Chet to go on a gig in what's the place? He started doing that
Oh,
scatty.
yeah, that was Scranton. 'Cause the car was broken down.
Yeah, so Chet had taken Carol's car to come back to visit me in Connecticut. Then he says, we play that gig in Lush Life and also the Struggles, right? So anyway, and then Buffalo. And then he says, I got to go back to,
Scranton.
no, way up.
Oh, Oklahoma.
No. Drove all the way on 84, way up.
Yes.
No.
Strikers. The club
No,
Strikers.
we played Strikers too, you know that, no. When we took Chet and Paul to the,
Yeah, I remember. I thought it was.
No,
It
it's in
wasn't
Boulevard.
Scranton. Oh, Hazelton.
Hazelton.
PA.
So anyway, on the way to Hazelton, I thought it's only gonna be a 2-hour drive, Chet. He said, well, we'll get there, just 3 times. So he lays down the seat in the fetal position. And he starts, but that David, that he's singing, like scary. He must have four choruses. He says, and that's just a head, man. And that's just it, man. I couldn't believe it.
You should tell him also about how when you go into New Haven and
Yeah.
Eddie Saccone,
Oh yeah,
he knew every tune in the book.
yeah. Bob would have liked that. Eddie Saccone, New Haven, Connecticut piano player. We'd go in, me and Lisa, every Saturday night, and he'd sit down, he'd do this tune. He said, "What's the name of this one, Art?" I said, "Don't." He couldn't fool me because I lived all my life like you did. So,
Well, you're a two-spit too. That's right. We used to.
he,
I mean,
have
Yeah.
he couldn't stop
Hard to
him. He
dispute.
couldn't believe it.
he couldn't stop me. I knew thousands of tunes growing up in 1933 in the 40s and all that stuff. I knew that, coming through the lines, the way I play, and I think why Chet liked me, and he said this, I was there when he said it, Strikers. I met a couple from Connecticut, they wanted to meet Chet so bad. So anyway, he had this guy, Pete somebody, come in to do an interview with him. He was from someplace in Baltimore or something like that. No, WBAL. Is that the radio station in Baltimore? Anyway, yeah. Anyway, he was telling about how much he liked my drums because I don't get in the way. I make the perfect placement, and I do the thunder rolls. He called it. I said, Chet, I don't ever want. Who in their right mind would want to play loud behind you and take away what you're saying, man? I play like Herbert Leonard said. Herbert Leonard said, is felt rather than heard. And I thought that was an insult. Which of course I could play bebop, and I'd rather play soft against Chet. If you notice, when we played the same way behind you. So if a drummer is a lyrical drummer. So lyricism rules, Bob.
Well, it's hard to, which you could do to play soft and keep the intensity, which was not a lot of cats could do that. And you knew the lyrics to everything too, which was interesting.
That's right. I still do.
Yeah, well, I
I'm
think
glad you said. I'm gonna one aside, Bob. Dave Brubeck, I worked with him in California with Chet just one night. And I don't know where the heck we were, but our Chet was not feeling that good, and I played very, very softly. And I've got it in print what Dave said. He said he never heard anyone play so soft and yet swing. You can swing on the ballad, and we swing on double up time swing. It's just, I'm just thankful to God, Bob, that I was able to play it all. And I want to remain humble the rest of my life to play with cats like you and the other cats we play with, man. That's the way it is.
That's that a little bit too. I mean, we're both thankful. I know that. Let me tell people that Art will be 91 years old.
That's right, 2.5 months.
This coming March 9th.
Right.
And you know, he's suffered with COPD, emphysema.
Yeah,
For
right.
how long have you? When were you first diagnosed with that?
Well, my brother died at age 52, and I was in my early 40s. And
So you're working
my
on a
mother,
half a
father,
century.
they all died.
You're
Huh?
close to 50 years
Oh
since you
yeah, easy,
started suffering with the emphysema.
Yeah, well, I just had to land my last. I was checked out by the doctors out here, and I have severe emphysema, and then you do too. So, I won't feel sorry, but I couldn't take 4 steps this morning. You go and anyway.
I'm barely there too, but
Yeah, I know you're there. I know you are. Look at, I got mine on too. We get the family, man.
I had the tracheostomy. You didn't have
I
that.
know it. Thank God I haven't had it, Bob. And I pray for you every night, my friend. I know what you're going through because I go through it myself.
I pray for you too.
I know you do. But what's your favorite tune, man?
My favorite
tune? Your all-time favorite tune, ballad.
My all-time favorite ballad.
Yeah.
That's very hard. The one I'm playing, the one I'm playing at the time.
You know what Chet is?
He told me once when they asked him what was the saddest song he knew.
Yeah.
We were in Europe and somebody came up and said, Chet, you play a lot of sad songs. What do you think the saddest song you know is? And he said, well, The Thrill Is Gone.
That's one of them. That's right.
Song. And then he said the other sad song is probably, the only sadder song is probably Goodbye.
Yeah, and he told me one time we're there, he said, when he was in jail in Lucca, Italy, right? Carol, him, Lehman was there, but Carol was there also. So Carol would go to see him every day while he was there.
Carol is, by the way, Chet's wife, who's the mother of his 3 children.
Right, yeah.
Just in case people don't know that.
Yeah, Halima. Yeah, Halima, yeah.
No.
What? Oh, Carol, yeah, Carol, right. Yeah, Gene Paul and
he did have a child with Halima too, which is another story.
Yeah, after, right?
He made the family, Teddy Jr., I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he was a little, he had trouble of
I heard that.
Yeah, he had a little mental problem.
Go ahead. Right. He went to jail near Firenze. What's the city? Lima.
No. He went to jail and it was in Lucca. Then he went into jail at what? I can't believe I don't remember it.
Anyway, Lucca. He was busted in Lucca.
Every time Carol would come to see him, he'd be playing Someone to Watch Over Me.
Yeah, she told me that.
Yeah, he liked that tune.
He said the prison band theme. Also, in Lexington, the prison band's theme song under Dameron was "Time on My Hands."
That's right. That's right. That's Chet, boy. That's Chet. And, this guy was an amazing man. I mean, he was so intelligent. He could speak languages.
Yeah, his Italian was beautiful. He spoke nice Italian. And you know what else he did that was always interesting? When someone had a name that was European pronounced, he would always give it the right pronunciation.
I know.
And he would call Rene Thomas. Chet would say to the person very quietly, he'd say, no, it's Rene Thomas.
Right. What a guitar player, huh?
And he told a funny line he had too, was, his humor was pretty subtle, but it could be pretty funny. So he said, somebody said to Chet, geez, Chet, it must have been terrible being in that Italian jail 9 months in the prison in Lucca, in the Italian prison. That must have been awful. Chet said, well, no, man, it wasn't that bad. I learned how to play chess and how to speak Italian.
Hey, here's a good one for Bob. We were in a club, I think it was Struggles, when the jerk came up to us. He said, hey, Chet, how come you come in line in your face? He said, that's some blind laughing. He says, nothing can be that laughing, not that funny. What's that guy's name? He said, how come you have all these wrinkles in your face? Just that I do a lot of laughing. The guy said, nothing can be that funny.
That's funny. I do a lot of laughing.
Here's something else that I play him every day. Yeah, I wish you lived close to Bob. We could get together and play all of our Chet stuff together and sit here and just recall all the beautiful times, you know. And me at 91 coming up, man, I just hope I can stay a few more years. But hey, you know, whatever, you know.
You know, for both of us. But you know,
what are you now, Bob? You're going in your 70s now, right?
I'm 71. I'll be 72 in March.
March. Oh,
yeah,
no kidding, Bob.
Second, I'm on the Aries side of the Pisces.
Yeah.
And
I'm a Pisces.
You're a Piscean, that's true.
Yeah.
I have a daughter that's a Piscean too. My daughter Anya will be 17 on the.
Who's her mother? Who's her mother? Paulina?
No, her mother. Yeah, her mother's Paulina.
Yeah. I just befriended her the other day. She had sent a friend request. I said, okay. But how's your daughter's that beautiful singer?
That's my eldest daughter.
Yeah.
She's Rosemary, and she's still singing. And
she can sing, great. Man.
Thank you. Emily Mover.
Emily, you know what? When I first heard her sing, she wasn't exactly like, but her body movement and facial movement was like Billie Holiday. Very understated.
Yeah, she has a lot of that in her, and you know, and she did a beautiful record a few years ago of Peggy Lee tunes called Emily Mover Sings Peggy Lee, and we had Bob Cranshaw, Jimmy Wormworth on drums, very nice piano player named Ehud Asheri, Joe Cohn played some, and Ruben, also two very excellent guitar players, and on different tracks, and you know, it's a really nice record. So I think it can be downloaded.
I'd like to have a copy of it. Send me a copy of it, Bob.
Well, you can just download it. I'll send you the download.
Oh, okay, do that. Yeah. Hey, you know, I meant to tell you, I brought your name. You know, I played with Cohn. You know, and then Chet Curson.
I knew Ted Curson well. Yeah, I replaced him at the Blue Note for a little while. I used to sub for him at his jam sessions that started at midnight.
So yeah, then we had Jimmy Heath come into town. These guys all got another guy. You know, Roy Ayers played great straight ahead music. Then he turns to his rock and roch.
Yeah.
And there's no lyricism in his plays now. I mean, he changed about 10, 20 years ago. It's terrible.
Yeah, I never really. I heard he could play though, but I didn't hear. I only heard his more commercial things. You know?
Yeah, they're very commercial. Anyway, but that's the thing what I'm talking about. Lisa and I were talking. We were talking about you the other day with somebody. I forget my son anyway. And Earl, I remember Earl, my wife, my former wife.
Earl, sure, I know Earl quite well too. Anyway, wonderful sculptor too. She's a very talented sculptress. Great artist.
She ought to do one of you, man. She already did one of me. She did Chet Baker, Bill Evans, and somebody else I can't think. But anyway, she would want to come up with a lyrical players. She that's what you guys all have in common. We all come from the era where it was sad and hard to live, and I think that wait a minute, he said, a lot of people. Yeah, Bird said, a lot of people don't know what I'm thinking, understand. But he said, I'm thinking of the nice breeze, the ocean, like that. Simple. Then you know, it's coming at the. They used to call the desk club, not Mitten, Mitten. It was Mittens. I played there once when I was 16. Mittens at another place. What's the other club? Royal Roost. Now the Royal Roost, they feed you, they give you food at about 10, 11 o'clock for the midget, you know. But what did he say? Keep going to talk. It'll come to you want this, Jim. Anyway, go ahead, Bob. You say something.
Well, I was going to say that. Did you ever get to know Vera, Chet's mother? Did you have any
No,
experience?
I live with her.
No, I know you were.
Yeah, I painted her house. I
Really?
got pictures of her and I. Yeah, Vera was a lovely lady. She was such a sweetheart. Not Chet exactly. She's very, very inward, very talked very softly. And she says, "Oh, she's Art." She says, "Chet looks upon you to be as part of the family, Art." And he said, she always had to call me and talk to Chet. I knew Vera very, very well. Yeah,
Well, I know that she, she at that in the movie, which I've never met Vera, so, and Chet didn't really talk a lot of his mother, except that she liked to enter him in talent shows when he was young.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
You know,
he always took me when I was young, 10 years old, 11 years old. All the songs. But he said, I never won any kind of contest, Art. You know, but one thing about his father was a boozer, man. And he brought marijuana into the house, and that pissed children.
well, he said his father used to smoke pot. His
He
dad
did
played,
too.
his dad played guitar,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I know.
his father. He told me he thought his father was smoking pot.
He was.
Yeah.
And Vera was beside herself. She said, I hope Brad don't come out in the future, of course, But
Well,
people don't understand Chet's needs for it at the time. He's a little Oklahoma guy. Had nothing really going for him except he's good looks. But when he burst on the scene there in LA, he would go and sit down every night in North Hollywood with Stan Getz and the other guy. I played with a guy, one of the greatest trombonists in the world, Frank Rossellini.
yeah.
He blew himself away.
And his family is a tragic story.
Yeah, and it's one of the nicest men you could live up to me and play. Forget it. He was about to do a CD with another guy I played with in Vegas. The fat guy. What's the name? The trombone player.
Carl Fontana?
Yeah, Carl Fontana. That's it. Yeah. And when I played up there, was a place called the Little Correction after you go there. Anyway, the Tender Trap. No one knew about this place. Tender Trap in Vegas, way out in the boonies. And I went out to my brother, and there was Frank, there was Carson Smith, and so other guys. And Bob. It started at midnight and went all the way through. There's no sleep. Geez, but that's one thing I wanted so much to tell you was about Chet and anyway.
Carl Fontana? Russell Lee.
Fontana, great, yeah, Ralph Fontana. Did you like him?
Oh yeah, they were both wonderful players.
Yeah. You ever hear of Roswell Rudd?
I knew Roswell Rudd.
With him, he was
hanging around St. James Infirmary.
That's right. Yeah.
He sat in with us with Chet a couple times, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, I know, man.
Roswell was
He came to Maine. He came to live in Maine.
Well, he invited me, actually, to go up to Maine.
Yeah.
With him. He asked me when I was actually, if I wanted to go up and be his teaching assistant at the university. He got a gig at the university.
Oh, I wish you had him.
I was only 23, and I said, I'm going to stay in New York, because I really am not ready to do that. But that's good that you're doing it. And plus, his wife at the time, Moselle.
Oh boy.
Remember her? Yeah, she was a little bit difficult to deal with. So I thought of, like being with Moselle for even a portion of every day was going to be too much. So I would stay in New York and keep playing with Chet and have my own band. But I loved Roswell. I would have followed the work of Moselle. I would have followed Roswell to the ends of the earth. He was the greatest guy. And he had some success.
I'm going to give him a call right after this.
No, he's gone.
Oh, he did? Oh, how long?
He played with a band called the Sex Mob.
Yeah.
I think it was like a punk jazz type of thing. And he had some success with that. But he's been gone maybe 10 years now.
I'm sorry to hear that. Ever since
Yeah,
I come out here, I
for a
never.
while.
Oh man,
But
wow.
he was quite something, and just a wonderful personality. There's some things he did with Steve Lacy that were gorgeous too. There's a
Yeah.
record called School Days with Dennis Charles on drums.
Oh yeah.
Really
Okay.
sounds great. And there's a concert I heard that they did just duets, just two horns with soprano and trombone at the Museum of Fine Arts in Montreal. And it's a masterful concert. Rudd and Lacey, you know, both of those guys
He
had,
had the biggest sound I ever heard.
yeah, he had a sound like a house. Boy,
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
you know, he could swing, and he was just, he was the history of jazz. He had everything
I, I, I
in
thought
him.
you should have played horn. You should have played car horn. The big blast. Ah, what
Well,
do
you
you
know,
call that?
Roswell, when I had my band at Sweet Basil regularly, Roswell would sometimes come in with his horn, and he wanted to play my originals. He said, "You got those originals?" He said, "I really like your tunes. He liked my writing." So I'd say, "But you know, you want to sight read that shit?" And he'd say, "Don't worry, I love to sight read. I love to play things for the first time." And I could put my most intricate original in front of him, and he'd play it like he wrote it. He was amazing, Roswell. Was,
Hey, yeah, I was playing with him one night in Maine because he come down and play. And I said, it's too bad Chet didn't write more. He said, right. It's every time he played, wrote. Every time he played, he wrote.
well,
True, man.
that's true. You know, he had a lot of, you know, also the other comment I really like that Jerry Mulligan said about Chet, because, you know, people said, "What did you learn from Chet?" And I said, among many things, I learned to forget about my knowledge and just
Right,
go to my ears and my instinct. I would,
right.
when I played with Chet, when I played with Zoot, when I played with Ira Sullivan, who were three examples of people that really didn't have the intellectual knowledge in any conventional sense, but nevertheless, you know, had all the other things.
Yeah,
And, you know, and so somebody said, Jerry Mulligan once said about Chet, he said, Chet knows everything about chords except their names.
that's right. Yeah. Hey, speaking of Irish Sullivan, I worked with him down in Miami. It was on the just past the 75th Causeway. He
The
was a
Rancher
great player.
Lounge. You sat
Yeah,
in at the Rancher Lounge years ago.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
He was what
Ira
a
held
player
that
he
gig for
was.
about 8 years,
What a
5 nights a
player.
week. And he was my first mentor. I met Ira when I was 13. You know,
Yeah.
so
Wow.
he was,
Wow.
you know, in fact, yeah, Ira was a huge influence on me, and was
I
my
know
friend.
Chet
Right?
Baker.
He died a few years ago too. Now,
I
so
know.
he's,
I got his daughter called me and told me. Yeah,
yes,
I like Ira. Very spiritual man too. You know that.
oh yes.
You couldn't
Now
go on a
there's one
stage with
story,
him.
a funny story about Chet that I really like. When we were in Chicago, it was my first time on the road with anybody. It was with Chet, and it was like 1974, and we're in Chicago, and Neil Tesser, who was a writer and writes for Downbeat and magazines, he was in Chicago at the
Yeah.
time, and he had a little radio show. So he did an interview with Chet, and typical Chet was he brought the band to the interview. A lot of guys would just be like the star, and when he didn't have that, he liked to ride with the band when we went places. He didn't travel. We all traveled on the trains together,
That's right.
and he liked to play cards with us and beat us at blackjack. And he liked the camaraderie of sharing the road life together and everything. And so he didn't really pull rank on you very often. You know, he called the tunes. It was his band, but you know,
Speaking of you, remember we did that strikers and we're down striking. And this guy came down and he handed Chet a piece of paper. I told him about it. He said, "Well, it's from Creed Taylor. He wants to know if I want to play the Shapers Jazz All Star Festival tomorrow in Walman Rink. Remember that?" So
yeah, I do
Chet, we
remember.
not unless I could take my quartet, my quintet was with me right now. Otherwise,
Yeah,
I'm
because they
not
wanted
going.
him to be part of the All-Star band, and that was nice.
Right, right.
So, but other times he acquiesced to it. But that's, you know, that's another story. He had no
You know what
choice.
happened, Bob? Coming across Central Park that day, going towards the gig, I carried Chet's horn for him. He never let anybody else carry. I carried the horn. I said, Chet, were you ever nervous? He said, nervous? He said, that's my edge, man. I'm always a little bit nervous. And, you know, I said, well, this drummer may be better than I am because I hadn't played for quite a while. He said, no, no. He said, you can do things they can't do and they do things you can't do. You're here because I like you, because I want you. That was one of the greatest compliments I've ever had, except what you're going to give me now.
That's great. Yeah. Well, he was like that. But now, you know, but when you talk about nervous, I think he suffered from a kind of stage fright in a strange way.
That's
Because
right.
one thing that I observed with Chet was really strange. I felt it's when he functioned best, there was an intimacy to his music. And
Yes.
he loved to be in a club with 20, 30 people maybe. And even the last step, when there's only 10 left, that might have been when he was really at his best. Because he felt like he was in his living room and he was just playing for people informally. But when we would play in front of thousands of people or several hundred people, which we did festivals and concerts with those large audiences, he almost always would find a way to either not play his best, get too messed up to play well, come late to the gig, or do something that would get in the way of, you know, of the larger success of playing for thousands of people.
Very special, very special presence, Bob.
You know, but he would be, you know, like when we did the Grand Pas de Jazz in Nice, that George Wein thing, that was a travesty. Every night he just would do some weird stuff. He couldn't get the methadone that he needed, and you know he was struggling with that. But nevertheless, and then there were other concerts that we did where, you know, the thing that was funny is he'd kind of screw up the concert and not be good, and then he'd say, "Hey man, there's a really good rhythm section after hours at this little club.
Yeah.
Let's go down there." And then he and I would get our horns and jump in the cab or walk to like some funky club or the roof of a hotel where he knew the trio. And we'd go and play there, and he'd play like an angel. We're just, you know, 2 hours before, he had just played like he didn't care at a very important concert because, you know, there were some nights when Chet just played like, you know, he said it one time, he walks off the bandstand and he said to me, another day, another dollar.
Yeah.
And
Have you came to me with Chet, you and Jack Beldar, came again, have Chet move the stuff out of my house? He had given me a $1,700 check because they had full closed on my home because I couldn't make it. Anyway, I held on to the check. And then he's going to New York. He's got to get a place on the west side, some tower, Rupert Towers. So anyway, you still here, Bob?
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, Rupert Towers. And I gave him back the $1,700 check. He couldn't believe it. So to make a long story short, he and I and Carol and Earl then, and he had Paul and Missy following him, were leaving the club. I forget where it was in New York City. And Paul was stuffing chicken things in his jacket. Anyway, walking down maybe Broadway, and he's dropping down the ground, and it must have been 12 dogs following us. Chet couldn't believe it. Captain, what are all these dogs following us on, Chet? He said, I don't know. He started yelling, shoo, couldn't get rid of him. Then he turned to see what Paul was doing. He threw another dog now, chicken bone down to him. He said, next time you're going to have hot dogs, Paul.
Next time you got to what?
He said, next time you're getting hot dogs, Paul. You know, like hot dogs instead of chicken.
The chicken bones could hurt the dog.
Yeah.
Well, you know, sometimes I would, usually I'd play gigs with Chet, but there was one time, a couple of times, where Chet was juggling this situation with two women, with his wife Carol and his mistress, or you know, girlfriend Ruth.
Yeah.
So you know, he tried to kind of distribute the time somewhat what he considered reasonably, And they would have terrible fights and arguments, and even a fist fight one night at Strikers. Remember?
Yeah, of
But,
course I do.
yeah,
Whoa, it's in my book. It's in my book.
yeah, right. You've got that in the book, which we'll talk about in a second too. But they would have all these. But one weekend, Chet was going to take Carol away for the weekend,
Yeah.
and he got a quartet gig. He got just him. He said, "I'm going to leave you in New York." Usually, he'd bring me. If we did something, it would be the two horns and the rhythm section. But he said, "I want you to take care of my kids. Can they stay?" And I was moving into a new apartment, and I said, "That's great. They can help me paint it, and I'll take care of them that night. And you'll be home in the early morning, so they'll sleep for a couple hours. You take them back with you." They were uptown. So while we were walking through the village on 8th Street, I'm with the three kids, Dean, the oldest, then Melissa, and then Paul.
Yeah.
And we see a gypsy woman, and she's got this little puppy. And she comes up to us. She says, "Listen, I need $10 for this puppy, because the puppy is going to die if you don't rescue it. I have no money to even eat myself, and I've got no money to take care of this dog. And I want I don't know what to do with this dog. Can you help me?" She said, "I'll give you the dog for $10. And the kids were like, "Oh," Dean collected every animal in the world.
I know, yeah.
He had frogs and lizards and
Yeah.
everything, so parakeets, parrots,
Yeah, Dean,
it's like a zoo. So Dean is there, and then of course little Melissa is going, and Paul, "Oh, Daddy, Mommy and Daddy said we could have a pet, we could have a dog. Can we have this dog? He's so cute." And he was a beautiful little kind of college type of animal. And I said, "You know what? Okay, I'll get you the dog." So I bought the dog, and the dog needed shots and all that kind of thing. I said, "Well, your mommy and daddy will take care of that when they get back, but I'll buy the dog." And we bought the dog some food, and we're there. And so Chet comes back with Carol, and they were broke, right? They really didn't have much money.
I know, right.
I figured, well, since they can't feed the kids, they just got one more mouth not to feed now, with the dog. So but the kids would have been so upset. They would have been crying the whole weekend. If you let the dog was going to die. But, I had no answer, no choice. So I went and got the dog. And so I said, "Oh, Chet." Chet says, "What's this?" He sees the puppy, When he gets the puppy's like lying on the couch on my lap or Melissa's lap. And I told him the story. Well, this gypsy woman came up, and the dog had nowhere to go, and they were afraid, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So you got a dog. He says, "Great, that's what I need," and then he starts complaining about that. I said, "Well, I don't know. I had to do it." So he accepts it. And later they told me that dog grew huge. That dog, I didn't know how big it was going to get. I don't know if you ever saw that dog, but first they called it Bob, but I think they gave it a different name. But they said they had that dog for a few years, and the dog had an outrageous appetite. And
what year was that, Bob?
That would have been about
1973, 74?
It would have been probably 75, 76, somewhere around.
When they moved to Maine, Chet had that dog with him. That little dog.
The same year that we went up to.
Yeah. Anyway, the dog ran away in Maine and went to the woods, and he lost him. But anyway, and it was like every time I try to tell you, I knew that. Go back to what you were anyway.
Really, I didn't know that happened to the dog. I know that they had the dog, and that Carol told me a few months after they had the dog that the dog was eating a lot of food.
Yeah. When they came to Maine, Chet had to go. You were going to France, so Chet, I took care of the kids for about 2-3 months, and Earl would take him out to go blueberry hunting in Maine. The blueberries are unbelievably fat and big and free, and making a blueberry pie. The kids finally got something, home cooked meals, and so we'd make home cooked meals for them, and
that was good.
And Chet, we did that. We did that Falmouth Forsyth gig. Your father came down for it in Maine at the Sheraton Hotel. What happened a month before that? Chet was supposed to be here, but he didn't make it. Get hung up with that, what's the name? the guy with the money they go in Paris, Nice, France. Anyway, we had a sign, West Coast Jazz. You know, it was my group went in and started to pay West Coast Jazz. The guy said, "What am I going to do?" The owner said, "What am I going to do?" I'll cover it. Got to be back. I'll cover it. So again, it's a big sign, West Coast Jazz. I mean, West Coast Jazz. So during the first break, this guy comes in, he said, "What's it feel like to pay West Coast Jazz?" He said, "I don't know. I'm from Westbrook." I said, "I don't know. I'm from Westbrook." He's from my hometown. He said, West. Because he thought Westbrook was West Coast Jazz.
Right, Westbrook.
Oh, gee. Yeah. Anyway, we sold out. The guy told me they did 3 months, 3 months pay inside of that 3-night gig. That's how much money they did. The bar did put in maybe the 3 months pay on that 3-night. Go figure it out, something like that. That's how important the gig was with you guys and me. And I didn't like the player we had. The bass player kept. There was a critic there, and the bass player kept going like a train without brakes. I told Chet, this guy get my hand to it. Yeah, him making bells up there. Chet turns around and he takes my stick and grabs it and says, "You don't have to play you can do I said, don't ever take that shit in my hand, never again, man, in front of my people." Well, I got real pissed off. So anyway,
That was.
Wait a minute. I said, "Who the hell do you think you are?" I said, "Who the hell do you think you are?" He says, "I'm Chet Baker." And I said, "You're right, man. I'm sorry. You're right." It's just, he's a very special guy, Bob.
He was very particular. The one other funny story I like to tell about Chet was when Neil Tesser was interviewing us, and Chet had brought the band on.
Yeah.
The whole band. So he said to Chet something to the effect of, "Well, you've had this long history with battle, with drug addiction, and I wonder if they say perhaps a lot of the time drug addicts had very unhappy childhoods, and do you think that this problem you've had with dope all your life, most of your adult life, has been because of an unhappy childhood?" And Chet had his little quiet, reflective thing on for a minute. And he goes,
Yeah.
No, man, I don't think so. I mean, my childhood wasn't particularly unhappy or happy. I mean, it wasn't idyllic, of course. Who's had an idyllic childhood?
That's shit.
It wasn't that bad." And the guy says, "Well, why do you think then that you've had this, unstoppable addiction to drugs all your adult life?" Chet says, "Well, I think the reason is that I love to get high. I have always loved to get high, and I guess I always will love to get high." And I cracked up. That was the most honest thing.
That's
man. That's it. That's you want an answer. No psychoanalysis here, no nothing. Yeah, I love to get high. That's it.
It's funny. Yeah, that's so true. There's one thing especially I want to tell you about Chet. The love him won't come to my mind. Well, anyway, we did the gig at Sheridan, and Dave Langentell, the critic for the Portland Press Herald, came in, and he'd always been a major fan of Chet. He plays trumpet himself. This guy was a city editor for the Portland Press Herald paper. So he loved Chet. He came to the Sheridan. He just sat there, mesmerized. So after that, you and I and Chet and Erlen and going across the restaurant to get some food because we were hungry. I said, "Why don't you come along, Dave?" He said, "Think so?" I said, "Yeah, come on." He said, "I can't believe it. It's 2:00 in the morning. We're walking, you and I and Chet, and walking across." And he says, "I can't believe it." He says, "I'm going to have Chet Baker." He said, "Yeah." This guy was no baby, He was a well-refined man, but he was just so impressed to be in that close proximity to Chet, And one other thing, I was in the Lush Life, and you'll remember this girl. Her name was Amy Duncan. She just died last year in Lonely in Brazil. She played the piano. She was working at Riles in Cambridge. Remember you come in, sit in that night? You remember that night you came in? Riles?
Very familiar.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm going to lunch break with Earl, with Lisa and somebody else, and Chet. So this girl comes running up to him, pretty good looking. Yeah. She said, "You Artt Frank?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Oh." She goes like this, "Is that who I think it is? Is that Chet Baker?" I said, "Yeah." "Oh," she said, I'd give anything to meet him." I said, "Hey, Chet." Chet, yeah. I said, "Want to meet you?" I said, "Me, Duncan." And Chet said, "How are you?" And she almost fell down. So when she asked Chet, she says, "How long does it take to get started in this town?" Chet said, "Well, how long have you been here?" She said, "Years." He said, again, that laugh he did, and he said, "You haven't even got started yet." So she said, I said, she said, I play piano. He said, "Oh," I said, I'm looking for one right now. Because he sold the one Ruthie, that down the apartment. He sold her piano. Anyway.
He stole her piano.
Yeah, well, yeah, he sold it to Ruthie, to Amy Duncan. So they got together and she bought it. So Chet was there. And when Earl did the sculpture of Chet, I think you were there. We came down to the place, it's Back Street in New Haven. And Earl had done the sculpture of Chet bronze. Oh my God, it was unbelievable. Because he did it while he was living with us. You saw it, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy who owns a Tech Hi-Fi in New Haven, Earl said, put it on sale for $6,000. So he said, "Yeah, come here." I said, went in the kitchen in the restaurant. He said, "You think it's worth it?" I said, "Worth it? Of course it's worth it." So he gave her a check about $6,000. So the next day, I called Dan Morgenstern at Rutgers, wherever he was.
Right.
Said, "We want to donate it to the archive." He was, "By all means." So we went down to New York, met him, had dinner with him, was a nice guy, and he accepted it. And then 3-4 months later, the restaurant for no reason at all just closed. It was a going place, Bob. I get them at I think the owner just.
Wait a minute, what happened?
On the way in New York, he was snorting on the way up, so he must have snorted too much coke and lost the business.
Well, wait a minute. Why did Dan Morgenstern? The guy already owned it for $6,000.
Well, he bought it to dedicate it to the Rutgers archive. This guy had a lot of money.
And he wanted to give it to Rutgers.
Yeah.
So what happened to it in the end?
It's still there in Rutgers.
Oh, it is in Rutgers.
Yeah,
right,
the
guy that bought it, he wanted to
give
it.
He's no longer around. The guy who bought it is still living in Connecticut. He went back from he smokes, what do you call it, this dope? He snorts dope almost constantly during the day and night. So, when the restaurant I was in, he owned one partner. I never had to pay for a beer in all my life, 3 years. But the bronze bust of Chet Baker is at the Rutgers University. Oh yeah, and Earl gave Chet $3,000 of that night. She didn't have to, but she gave Chet $3,000 cash dollars, and he was the happiest guy on earth.
Well, Chet had his little scams.
Yeah.
I mean, Ruth told me one time I'd come up there and they were staying at the Bolivar Hotel on Central Park West, and they had that. When we got back from Europe one time, I stayed there. I was transitioning, getting back to New York. I'd been living in Boston and teaching at Berkeley, and I left Boston to go out to Europe with Chet, and then I came back. So I thought I was going back to Boston, but I decided not to because some personal things were going on. So I'm there staying with Chet and Ruth for a few days over at the Bolivar. And they have this beautiful piano. It's like a Steinway. And I'm having a ball playing it and, playing duets with Chet. I'm playing piano and he's playing trumpet. And we did that a lot. We had a good time with that. And, he put up with my bad piano playing. But, as Harold Danko said, I'm good enough to play cocktail piano in a bowling alley. But, you know, but the thing is that I came up after that and I said, where's the piano? This was like later that year. And I said, it wasn't, what happened to my piano, the piano that was there? She said, oh, Chet stole the piano. I said, he stole a Steinway grand piano?
That's where it went.
She said he came
Amy
over with
Duncan.
people dressed as piano moving men with a van and with uniforms. And he still had his key. So he went up and they brought the piano down. They put it in the van. And I guess he sold it to somebody. So that's the piano he sold to Amy Duncan. I mean,
Probably Amy Duncan.
yeah, so now I know where that went.
Yeah.
But I said, that's amazing. He actually stole a grand piano. I never heard of anybody doing that before or since. But
I got a nice one to tell you. When Lisa and I when Chet was living with us, I would take him in town, New York City, every day to get his methadone,
right.
And I took him in this one time, and when we came back, I wouldn't win that all the time. He went by himself, and he came back and he said someone had stolen his trumpet. I said, "Oh man!" So we got him another trumpet, right? And he said someone beat him up, and he hit his own arm, make it red. He did it himself.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, he had different ruses.
Yeah.
Things, it was but the funniest he had those kind of tales. I mean, when I went to Europe, I had my trumpet and I would play it as a hobby. I'd practice a little trumpet because my dad was a trumpet player, and I always could play a little bit. And I like to sometimes I'd play ballads with Chet with the two trumpets, just for the fun of it, to kind of match his tone. And we'd play a slow ballad or a blues or something slow, because I have no technique really to speak of. But, I had a pretty decent sound. But anyway, when I came over to Europe for the Grand Parade de Jazz, which was that big travesty, we won't get into that story today, but he had smashed his trumpet. When I got there, they said, oh, it's good that you brought a trumpet, because he doesn't have a trumpet. And we were going to have to go to Paris or go into Nice and get him a trumpet because he doesn't have a horn. He got mad. He was frustrated because he couldn't get the methadone. And he banged his trumpet and he broke it. So then he had my trumpet. And he actually played it, but he had managed to put a dent into it as well, not out of frustration. Like somehow the horn got a little dented. And it was a trumpet that I had borrowed from a friend of mine named Bob Montalto. He had a few instruments. So he said, hey, I said, the trumpet's pretty nice. I didn't own a trumpet. He says, you want to take the trumpet? You can take it to Europe and practice it if you want. And give it to me when you get back. I said, yeah, that's good, because I might want to buy one when I get back. So good, I took the trumpet, and I happened to have it with me. And Chet played that trumpet for the rest of the tour. So at the end of the tour, this is where stardom is interesting. Being a legend is really funny, because there was a dent in the bell. And I handed it back to Bob, and I said, man, Chet dented your bell. He kind of banged into something. I don't know exactly how he did it, but your horn's got a dent in it. So you might want to fix that. If you want to fix it, I'll cover it. He said, oh, no, Chet Baker put the dent in this horn. I'm going to keep it just as it is.
That's right.
People, if I'd have dented it, I'd have to fix it. But Chet,
another thing.
He's honored.
Yeah, but you know what? Like you said, he did have his idiosyncrasy. This one time when we were going to Buffalo, we had Paul, Cohn, and Lisa, and we had to stop because he had to get his wafers. So anyway, while he was there, he was gone especially a long time. So I got out of the car and went and got him. So he was in the bathroom just taking care of himself. So anyway, he come down. He was vividly pissed. I said, what's the matter? He said, the man, had raped a 6-month-old baby.
Wait a
And
minute, who
Chet,
was this guy?
some guy, and it was a drug addict. They said I'm 6 months or 6 year old, one of the two. Chet was livid. He wanted to get that guy. He went, oh, because he got a kid too. So we drove all the way there. He didn't say a word all the way down, maybe around 100 miles. Then he started talking. But this, I nearly took a guy when I went on the first time and gave him a shot, the Bobby shot. Chet said, no, no. I said, what do you do to him? What the hell you do to this guy? He said, Chet needed some soup, and I gave him some soup. He said he'd be all right, and he was after a while. But the barber shop was big, and had two, 3 chairs, and it had pictures of Chet on the wall, and a couple of other jazz musicians. So he had a little curtain. He went out in the back with him. When Chet came out, like I told you in the beginning, he was livid. But the thing was, I don't understand. As you know, you treated Chet very well. I've treated Chet very well over the 22 years I knew him. You still wonder, with all the breaks that you have, that it was just doing the same thing, man. You know, that's one of the things that bothered his mother so much. He said, Art, I don't understand Chetty. And Chet, every time we go on a run, see Chetty, put your sweater now. So she, oh, always put your sweater on, you know. If you look at him, sometimes he had a sweater everywhere he played. Yeah, she was something else. I wish you could have met her. I think
Yeah,
she'd have
there was,
really enjoyed you because you were a good friend for Chet, and there weren't too many good friends around those days, Bob.
well, you know, Chet was somebody, there's an expression that I can't think of right now. It's not like a great future behind him, but it was, yeah, as somebody once said, um, Chet, like Edgar Allan Poe and a few other people, he just couldn't take yes for an answer.
Yeah.
You know, he was so determined to give himself strife that sometimes he just would he could take good fortune and just turn people who could help him against him. And I saw him do that um, quite a few times with people that could have had a good influence on him and on his career. He would,
Take a break. Take a break.
Yeah. Maybe now
You
you
know.
can talk about your book.
Yeah, did you know, Bob, one more thing? We were playing at the Melody Room, Hollywood. We sat in Denny's Diner, which is on Sunset Boulevard, just before you come to La Brea. Anyway, we're sitting inside in his windows, and this shelved hobo come up, and he was looking in this barrel. He's digging for food, and he found like that. He found a little piece of cotton. He started eating. Said, look at that guy, man. He said, no one gives a shit about him. Chet gets up out of the seat, goes outside, and guy comes in with us, sits down next to me, and has breakfast with us. And Chet paid the whole thing. That's the kind side that not many people saw of him, you know. That's how Chet was.
like he could do things like that, and then he could do other things that would just, you know, alienate,
I know.
people that, a friend of mine said this guy could make Mother Teresa want to punch him. You know,
I know a guy called him Chet Taker. Chet Taker.
Chet Baker. Yeah, well, if you struck him the wrong way, I mean, he he had a lot of complex relationships going with people. That a lot of it was just around money, because it's like junkies. They do take your money and they don't pay you back, and he had that unfortunate aspect of his character, which some people, that was the overriding thing. Give me one second.
Bob.
Yes.
Bob, all that is true. And as I said in my book and in my life, to me, it was well worth to keep him alive there. I don't care what he needed. I was there. all the way, and we went in East. Chet,
And you had a lot of good times.
yeah, we had so many beautiful times with them, and but the thing was, I loved him with a passion, not as a just as a real man. And for what to me, he was like walking into a club with him was like magic because you were treated extra special when when you were with Chet. I come into a club. Oh, hi, Mr. Frank. We can do it. Oh, Mr. Baker. And I told Lisa one time, she agreed with me. I said, as long as I'm alive and he's alive, whatever I get, I'm gonna help him out. That's how long it takes to write.
Yeah.
You know how long it takes to write a book like this, Bob? You know how long it takes to write a book like that? 2
For
books.
quite a while.
The book was so big, the book was so large that the publisher said we have to make it into 2. Because did you read both books?
Yeah,
Both of them?
I did. I read most of both books. I would just turn to certain pages and read 20 pages here and 20 pages there. But I got the idea.
Good, yeah.
Not in sequence, but I plan to read them in context at some point. But I got a lot of the stories in there and everything, and Chet to me, sometimes it was like hanging out with the bad kids in school.
Yeah.
After school, kind of the kid that your mother and your grandmother said, like, stay away from them. Except my mother.
You were in awe. You were in awe too, and you admit it. To be around Chet at that time, you were in awe.
Oh yeah, I mean, you could be in awe of he's just not caring. I mean, it's just the carefreeness and also carelessness, which ultimately killed him. I would say, Chet, when the car's going to run out of gas, Chet, watch out this. And he'd say, you worry too much. And, that may be my Jewish upbringing. I would tend to be a worrier about things and always looking out for the problem. And Chet didn't do that. He didn't think about that.
I said, Chet, what was it? He keeps coming out of me. I get to talk about Chet Baker. He was like you said, man. He was quick-tempered. If something bothered him, he would not hold back. And somehow he thought maybe when I first met him, I said, "Why you do this?" He said, "Well, I like it. I like it." I said, "Don't you think it bothers your mother and Carol and your kids?" He said, "Well, it's not bothering anybody else." And then, one guy, right? He said,
"It only bothers the people most important to me." Or that
his whole life centered around his getting a gig, getting to the gig, doing it again, coming home to the hotel. That's all he had.
Well, that's what Chet said. We come from the let's get high and play school of music. And my mother told me once, it was funny, she said, Bobby, you left home at 15, and I never worried about you getting along in the world, except when you go out on the road with that madman, Chet Baker. I would stay up, and I was thinking each night, I wondered if you died. I wondered if somehow he'd managed to get you to some situation where you'd be killed, because he was, he scared me. He was a nice guy, but he really scared the hell out of me. My mother said, he was.
I'm gonna write a new book, another book.
Yeah, well, I suggest that people read these books. They're really good. And the stories, the anecdotes, and the warmth of the relationship.
I'll hold it up
especially, let's take a look at that. This is called, the first book he wrote was called Chet Baker, The Missing Years, a memoir by Artt Frank. And what's the publisher on both of them? Here's the second book. Show the cover of the second book. Right. Chet Baker, always looking for the light, a memoir by Artt Frank. And the publishing company, if the people want to order the books, do you want to tell us?
Yeah.
Here, it's Books Independent, not independent. It's
Books
Spelled it looks like bookend.
Yeah,
So it's books independent.
yeah, book with an E instead of an I. Books book E dependence. Book
Wait a minute.
independent.
Independent.
Let's get that. Can you show us the page?
Yeah.
It's
And
right
then
on the
Jesse
back.
can write it later with the
Can you see that circle?
PE.
Where it says B? Yeah, that's, can you read the line underneath?
Not really.
Okay, hold on. Let me find a better spot.
But these are the two books that Artt Frank wrote.
Oh, here's better. Here's a
Give it
better.
to Bob.
Okay, right here, in dark, you'll see it. Can you see that underlined?
And here's the other one too, Jesse.
That's
And this is Art's
Schaffner
book,
Press.
The Essentials of Bebop Drumming.
And that's Schaffner Press.
Yeah. And
Oh,
money,
that's SCHA.
Yes, FFNER, Schaffner.
Right, SCHAFFNER.
Right.
And that's got that little recommendation by Dave Brubeck there.
Yeah.
And
it's all inside, Bob. It's like
A lot of quotes.
a lot of quotes by
Other musicians.
with the Gottlieb. What was his name? Gottlieb.
Photographer, yeah.
Yeah, photographer Martin Gottlieb. He saw me at Birdland. I'm in Royal Roost or someplace, and he mentioned also Herman Leonard. Jimmy Herman Leonard.
Herman Leonard was one of the great jazz photographers.
Oh,
And
yeah. He was a really
Show
nice
that
man
book to
too.
Bob.
Here's all your
Show that
people
book to Bob.
that.
Yeah.
yeah, Herman Leonard.
I want to read this to you, Bob. Listen, it said, this is what I'm telling you about.
Anyway, Herman gave this book
Yeah.
to Art.
Over
This
the
was
first one.
after that terrible storm down in New Orleans. He had to move
No,
to.
read what he sent up to me.
Oh,
After Katrina.
he had to move to LA because it was flooded. It was horrible. You remember Katrina.
Katrina.
For Artt Frank, we share all these memories. Happy birthday, man. And above all, enjoy the music.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, he and I were friends, and he saw me playing with Parker. Yeah.
Really?
See, I didn't put. I was 16 years old, and when I talked to Stan Levy was 15 or 15 and a half when he started playing with Bird and Dizzy Gillespie.
Right.
So we had it up here, Bob, and that's true. I mean, I never studied. I never went to school or took a lesson. I didn't know any drums until I was about 20 when I come up from the Navy. But see, when I was overseas in Europe, I had a chance to play with all the Italians. To this day, they remember me. But there's some great musicians over in Italy. But when I met Chet, I didn't lie to him. I said, I haven't played in a long time, man. But he used to come to my house and I'd play brushes, and he really liked the way I played. He said, "It's you see, but also you're like I can't forget." But anyway, I was so happy that he chose me, because I mean I was I was just looking around trying to get in the movies. I broke in the movies a little bit, but
Well, that's true. We didn't talk about the things you did some boxing in the service.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah, when I was in the Navy, I did. I was in welterweight, in the Navy or in the Army or any place else. You have what is called smokers. All guys get together, get the weight, and they get the stuff, and they go in your box. Well, I fought this one guy who was 6'2", and he outweighed me about maybe 25 pounds. Well, 20 pounds. I have to catch him with the left hook because I'm a southpaw, I went right down, knocked down. Then I fought maybe 4, 5, 6 smokers. Then when I got out, I went to Newton. I lived in Boston from 6, 7 years during the time of the Boston Strangler, and Paul Pender was fighting with Sugar Ray. That's when I was working out there. Beautiful gym.
He was from Malden or Revere, one of those places, right?
Huh?
Paul Pender was from Malden or Revere.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And his wife's name was Rose. But anyway, I did some sparring with Sugar Ray Robinson. I want to tell you, it's very, very quick. The guy was unbelievable. He could hit you. He's over here next.
Even at the end of his career, right?
Huh?
I mean, you started with Sugar Ray, or
right? But he was still phenomenal, man.
oh,
Now,
yeah.
I spotted a few guys, Bob. I didn't want to go into it. I figured I may get blind. I did get detached retina. Not from that, but later on. And I decided I'm going to go. God give me the gift to play. I'm going to go for that. That's what I decided. So I can still protect myself even to this day. I never lost my power punch. I can still punch. Like Chet will tell you, one night coming out of the military room, some guy was giving him some shit. I remember grabbing. I was like, shit, I don't let him have one. He said, no, don't do it. You might go to jail if you nail him. And I did hit this guy in a gas station I was working with in LA. We were boxing. He was about 6'1", thin guy. He threw it at me. I ducked it and I hit him with the left and right to the gut. And this is the truth. I broke his bladder. I didn't know it. He went to get the Coke machine, fell face first into the cement like that.
You were just
That's frightening.
Yeah, huh?
That's scary.
Yeah, let me tell you. So he laid, and all of a sudden I saw water coming out. All kind of water. Oh God, what's happening? What happened? So I immediately called the what do you call it? Ambulance. And he came down. And he was still unconscious. They took him to the hospital, and I found out the next day that I had broken his bladder. One shot, I broke his bladder. And I'll tell you, Bob, when I was with Earla in Maine, some guy gave her a rough time. He was a what do you call this guy? Steeplejack. He said something. He called me a frustrated old man.
A stevedore?
Right. Huh?
He was a stevedore?
Yeah. No, he was Steeplejack.
Stevedore.
I think it's the difference. Anyway, I hit him with the right hand down. He went, bam. He got up. He come at me again. I said, "Don't do that. Don't mind." He come at me again, and I whacked him again. Now, they took him to the hospital. I didn't know. I left. I took my dump and get out of there. And I called the police department and informed them the next day. I said, "Yeah, if we come on, we want to see you." So I come in, and they put me under arrest for about 6 hours. And they said, "The guy's going to sue you." So I was scared. I prayed constantly. To Almighty God. Anyway, we went to court. I couldn't afford an attorney. So the attorney says, "If you paint my office, I'll represent you." I did it. We go to court. This is after months of strain, scared to go outside the door. I was scared.
Sure.
Scared to get arrested and go to jail. Went to court, and I waited. And it says, then they call my name. The lawyer gets up and gets down there to the judge. And he's like, I hear some talking. And about 5 minutes later, he comes back to, excuse me. I said, "What's going on?" He said, what they say? The guy didn't show up. So they're going to put the, hey, you Father God. So anyway, they put me on hold. If I did it again, they'd get me. But anyway, Bob, that prayer was answered, man. I mean, I was absolutely scared because these hands were licensed, you know. Anytime you fight professionally, even for a minute, they were licensed. I could have gone for what's called, yeah, but no, the other thing, abusive assault, a deadly weapon, something with deadly weapons. Yeah, that was it. So I didn't get it. But anyway, I'll tell you, I don't do that stuff anymore.
Well, that's good. And we're all glad you found the drums. And you want to hit something,
yeah.
hit that.
Yeah. But you know, I tell you the truth, Bobby. I call him Bobby. Yeah, I didn't know your father, but I think I may. If you said his name was Cappy, you owned a place called Cappy, something like that.
He played at a place called Cappy's in Boston. His big band opposite the Sappy Lewis group. Sappy Lewis was a very famous black orchestra in Boston?
I played with Samuel. I was 14, 12, 12, 13, 14 years old. My father took me in. He said, I understand if you play a little music, yeah, you jazz, yeah. He invited me up. He invited me up. It was I played all these. You do very good, son, but very, very good. Then I met, did we have Serge Chaloff?
Serge Chaloff was my dad's roommate on Ina Ray Hutton's band.
That's another guy. How about
Chaloff? Yeah, he was. My dad had a lot of stories that are not fit for mixed for television.
I like Serge. Yeah, no, I liked him though. Anyway, somebody else the other night is an Italian alto player.
What?
Boots Maselli. Boots Maselli.
Yeah, that whole Boston blow-up band.
Yeah, remember the Staples?
I heard about it. Mr. Kelly
Staples. I played there.
Staples, right?
Yeah, Staples. And just about every other club in Boston I played. You ever hear Fred Taylor?
Fred Taylor, who ended up running the workshop with Vardy, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Also,
did you ever hear John Neves?
I played a lot with John Neves.
Yeah.
I played a lot with John.
Yeah, so we had all these guys in Florida. Connie Milano.
Connie Milano was one of my great buddies.
Yeah.
And taught me about intervals.
Okay.
In fact,
what's the other? Joe
DiOrio. I grew up with all those people. When I was a teenager, they were all playing with Ira. Tony and Dolph Castellano, and Joe DiOrio and all the whole Miami crowd.
I know we got the same people, Bob.
Yeah, in fact, Tony Castellano and Connie Milano took me to a party one year, and we're gonna go in a minute, but this guy was the head of the Teamsters, and every year he had a party at his house in Miami Shores, a very big fancy house, and he sang one tune, which was let there be you, let there be me, let there be oysters.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, let there be you.
Occasional rain, chili con carne, and champagne, and let there be love. That was his big song.
Yes, sir.
I thought it was funny. This guy is like the head of the Teamsters, and that's his song, Then he'd have his neighbors over, and he'd have his friends over, and the most fantastic introduction I ever heard. I love this. He said, Dr. Goldberg, Mrs. Goldberg, I'd like you to meet Willie the Crusher.
You know what?
Oh, tell me about Michelle.
I wish. Did you ever hear Milwaukee Peixoto from Brazil?
I played with them at the Rancher Lounge. Moacir Peixoto.
I played with him in Miami.
Manuel Cushmal was the bass player, and the drummer was a great drummer, Machado, Edson Machado.
Yeah.
Drums. He was a genius. And when I would sit in with Ira Sullivan and Joe DiOrio, when I was 17, I would play the whole set with Peixoto. He let me play almost the whole set with him, and then I'd stay on the bandstand and continue with Ira. And I would do that a few times a week. That's how I learned to play better.
Did he do this to you, like when you go, hey, he clicked like that, hey, Frankie said, yeah, okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
For sure, I loved him, man.
I actually when I stayed in Brazil for 7 months, I was in Sao Paulo for a weekend, and I sat in with Peixoto years later in Brazil. I played with them again. But anyway, our time is running.
I just want to say one thing. I wish we were back in the 50s, man. And listen, God bless you, Bob, and God bless Jesse, and God bless all for peace and love. So talk to you soon, Bob, on the phone, all right? See you along, Jesse. See you later, dear.
You are, and thank you. His wonderful wife, Lisa. Lisa, come here and say goodbye to us.
Yeah. I had a good time listening to all that.
To see you too.
Remembrances
and we thank you again.
Thank you, man, my friend. My
I'd like
brother,
to
I love you, Bob.
love you too, Art.
Yeah,
And
gentlemen.
we'd like to thank everybody who is watching for watching. And if you'd like to see more episodes like this one, please like this episode and subscribe to Jazzability at Bob Mover. I'm sorry, subscribe to Bob Mover Jazzability on the real side. Tell others to join and watch this too, and you can support us by going to Patreon as well, at Bob Mover Jazzability. And once again, we thank everybody, and we especially thank Artt Frank and his wife Lisa. I'd like to thank Jesse Kaiser for producing this and making it all coherent. And we thank everybody and want to say God bless you all and good night.
Yeah, Bob.